This is Safe for Work, the Workopolis podcast.
Hi, I'm Sal Chalfi, and on this episode of the podcast, career fairs. If just hearing those words strikes you with panic and fear, don't worry. You're not the only one that finds the prospect a bit intimidating. The thing is, though, it doesn't have to be. To get some tips on how to make the most out of career fairs, I'm with Shawn D'Souza, Workopolis' talent acquisition manager. Hey, Shawn.
Hey, Sal.
So, as a student, did you take advantage of career fairs?
Oh, yes, definitely. I think career fairs pose a great opportunity for any student on campus in terms of finding the next opportunity after they graduate. I'm not going to lie to you, Sal, but I was a very shy student, and to talk to any recruiter or employer on campus, it was me running the other way. Mm-hmm. It was a very daunting experience because I had to come out of my shell and make sure I'm selling myself or I'm promoting myself out there. Again, I would say to any student out there, they need to make sure they have an approach. It can always be tricky though. I would never let anybody use my approach because I always circle back towards the end of the day to make sure I'm going back to the employees on my A list to speak to them. But then again, when I'm there, the crowd is much bigger than what it used to be when I started off. So I'm not ever going to make it to the employer or recruiter. So what I would say is just remember as a student, you're not the only one, right? You have 120 students who are going to graduate from the same program. So make sure you have a different approach as a student of how you're going to talk to these employers and recruiters and blow them off what they're looking for in their next hire.
Okay, well, you touched on some strategies there, which we'll get into in a bit more detail, but what you just said is interesting to me. So now that you're on the other side, and you're in HR, you're recruiting, what is it that recruiters are looking for at career fairs? What's their goal? How can someone stand out from a crowd of hundreds?
So I would say, just in a couple of words, more than a resume. Mm-hmm. And that's important. I think face-to-face conversation helps recruiters not only to know your interest in that 2 to 3 minutes conversation that you have, but also to learn about your personality. So the biggest challenge right now in life, when you move into the job market, you don't get to speak to recruiters. You don't get to connect with employers face to face. So this is the only chance you'll have to make the best of it. Recruiters are coming down to your school. They are in your backyard. So I think you have to make sure you're taking utmost advantage of it. As a recruiters, they're there to eliminate through the crowd, right? They're there to make sure they're finding the right individual to join that team. They're there to talk to someone who, first of all, has done research about their company and is excited to share about what the company has to offer. If you notice you're someone who just wants the job because you're graduating, well, look behind you in the line. There are more like you there. So being a great listener is key, right? And when you're listening and making a connection, make sure you're having those conversations that are meaningful with these recruiters, because recruiters are not going to just pick you out of the crowd for having these conversations. It has to be very meaningful, and that's when recruiters will hire you or even have a potential conversation with you for a first round of interviews.
So how can a job seeker at a career fair make a conversation meaningful? How can they prepare for something like that?
Great question. I think preparation is key if you want to tackle any sort of a job fair or a career fair. Most of the time, the list of your employers will be on your school website, or if they aren't, make sure you reach out to your campus career coordinators, and they will give out the list of employers that you have. Start creating the top list of employers you'd want to work with, right? Make sure you're early and speaking to the recruiters as soon as the job fair starts. Again, recruiters are also human beings, so they tend to get tired towards the end of the day. So make sure you're in there right in the beginning so they remember your face towards the end of the day. If you're the nervous one, now this can be tricky. Look at your list, start with the companies from the bottom of your list. You move up slowly and gradually by gaining confidence by talking to other recruiters, right? You've gained that confidence, and then now is the time to have more serious conversations with the companies you want to work for. I would say be prepared with your resumes or your contact cards because any conversation with a recruiter might lead to, hey, can I have your card please? Or hey, can I have your resume? Sometimes most of the job seekers try to fit in the one-size-fit-all approach. And I do not feel that's the best approach, because if you're going to print out 20 resumes and just distribute them out to everyone, that might not land you a job. But if you have 6 to 7 top employees on your list, make sure you tailor your resumes to those companies. Definitely when they look at your skills and the job that they're looking for, they might at least call you for an interview. So make sure you're just matching, at least take the effort and match them at least to your top A-listed companies.
Okay, so that's an interesting topic. So what are, apart from the one-size-fits-all resume, what are some of the common mistakes that people will make at career fairs?
Where do I start, Sal? So as soon as the career fair starts, I've seen candidates just rushing in, and they just, even without saying hi, they just hand in a resume or a contact card straight into your hands. I would say don't do that. Make sure you have those conversations before you pass on the resume, or best, make sure you're feeling the beat or the pulse of the recruiter. If he's asking you for your resume, he's probably interested. That's why he's asking you for your resume or your contacts. He can connect with you later on.
So should that be the goal of job seekers at career fairs, to really just have these meaningful conversations and not so much dropping off the resume? Because I think a lot of people go in thinking I have to drop off 20 resumes. And
yeah, it's not, it's like I said, it's not about just dropping off your resume or your contact information. Like I said, this is a huge opportunity. You don't want to miss having those meaningful conversations one-on-one with these recruiters. At the end of the day, if they're going to remember you, they're going to call you back. Or you can always follow up. I always tell my candidates that follow up with the recruiters who have asked for their contact or for their resumes.
So you mentioned at the top that you were very shy as a student. What would you say would be the best way to approach a meeting with a recruiter for someone who is a little bit shyer, let's say? How can job seekers really make the most of it?
Like I said, I was shy, and it took me a couple of years before I could overcome my shyness and start talking to recruiters and employers who are on campus. I didn't want to say something out of the blue that made them feel, oh, this guy is not the right person for me. So probably that's why I was scared. And that's why I never approached any of these recruiters to make sure and ask them any of these questions that were really the ones that would have been right. So I would say not all questions are wrong. If you have done your research, if you go ask the question, you might get a straight answer from these recruiters or even the employers. You're smart, you understand the business, you know exactly which field or which area of expertise you want to grow into, and that's why you're here. If you know the managers or the hiring managers, look them up on LinkedIn, right? Learn about them a little bit, research them. When you go start conversations about them, about their background, this will give you a good segue into talking to them about the roles and about the companies. So I think there's a little bit of research you need to make sure you do before you build that confidence, and you can ask those questions with these recruiters.
On the topic of questions, what kind of questions is it that a recruiter would find especially impressive or important? Is it a candidate that's asking about the role or asking about the company? What do you think is the best approach when it comes to questions?
Okay, I think at the end of the day, when you're asking questions to recruiters, they shouldn't be like, are you hiring? Because if you look around and if you are a little bit more conscious, you will find their brochures say they are hiring there. So that's a no-no to ask a recruiter. Make sure you've researched your top list employers. I tell my students all the time that they need to make sure they're researching all the roles that are on the career website. Ask them questions about, hey, so what do you think the day in the life of this role is all about? And a recruiter would be able to tell you those answers. If it's a hiring manager, he definitely knows what's a day in the life of that specific role that you're looking to apply for. So ask these type of questions that help you also make a decision towards whether you really want to be part of this organization or not, whether you want to work this role or not. So I think questions around roles, around company culture is amazing, but don't ask questions that you can easily find online. Make sure you've done enough research, and then sometimes there's questions that are not answered there. Go back, and that's when you ask those questions to the recruiters or hiring managers.
Okay, and you mentioned research quite a bit. What should a job seeker or someone going to a career fair research? Is it company culture? Is it recent developments? Should they just be looking at the careers page?
Start with the company for sure. Look through what their culture is all about. See if they have any other social media handles that you can. I'm sure a lot of companies right now have their own Facebook, Twitter. Try to look into those different social media channels, and you will notice that a lot of companies talk about their culture. They share on an ongoing basis or what happens within the business at any given point of time. Yes, that's really important for you because that's giving you an internal perspective of what happens in the business on a regular basis. The next thing I would say is look at all the jobs they have been posting for the past couple of months. So this will give you an idea of where do you see yourself within the organization. As if they have co-ops, if they have internships, speak to students who have interned at these organizations. If you know someone who's a senior and has interned at this company, have those conversations with them. So this way you're researching more about the company and the organization and ask them, how is it really to work at this place? Is it really worth my time to go and spend an interview with the hiring managers or the company? So you have tons of sources that you can research through. You just have to find the right ones.
Okay, all great advice. What would you say to someone preparing for the very first career fair, the first experience? Is there anything else that you think is really important for them to know?
Be yourself and know your resume thoroughly inside out, because if you are the one that the recruiters really want to chat about, they are going to look to your resume, ask you questions around it. If you notice the conversation with a recruiter is going about 2 to 3 minutes, definitely there's something. They're clicking on something. They want to know more about you.
All right. Well, thanks, Shawn.
No problem.
And if you'd like more tips and discussion for all things career fairs and career related, please go to workopolis.com/advice. Safe for Work is produced by me, Sal Chalfi, Paige McGarry, and Madison McKee. It's executive produced by Lana Chen and Anne Valeri. Music by the band Code Pie.
You've been listening to Safe for Work, the Workopolis podcast.